I never thought I would live long enough to tell a story like this. A story I once prayed no one would ever hear. A story that, even now, as I sit here, my hands still tremble when I think of it. You know, people say the deepest pain doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people whose names are saved in your phone, the people whose faces you've memorized since they were young, the people you raised with your own hands. And that's why what happened to me felt like someone slowly turning a knife inside my chest. I want you to listen closely, not because my story is special, but because it could happen to anyone. It could happen to a woman like me, who gave her entire life to her family and never imagined that one day she would accidentally overhear a conversation that would shatter her soul. I still remember that evening, the air heavy, the house too quiet, that kind of quiet that makes your spine tighten because you know something is wrong. I remember standing by the hallway, just a few steps from the living room, when I heard my own name mixed with whispers. At first, I thought I misheard. My hearing isn't as sharp as it used to be. But then, the words came again, clearer, sharper, words that made my legs numb. Nursing home, before she becomes a burden. We should do it soon. My heart stopped. I wish I could tell you that I misunderstood. I wish I could tell you those voices didn't belong to my children. But they did. My son, my daughter-in-law, the one who always smiled too sweetly at me. They were discussing where to send me, not for a vacation, not for my health, but because, in their eyes, their own mother had become an inconvenience. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I felt like if I made the slightest sound, the entire world would collapse. You know that feeling, when you suddenly realize you're not loved the way you believed. It's like cold water spilling down your back. I pressed my hand against the wall because I thought I might faint. A nursing home. Me, their mother, after everything I'd done, after every night I stayed awake when they were sick, after every meal I cooked with trembling hands, after every sacrifice I never once complained about. They were planning to send me away. And the worst part, they sounded calm, as if they were discussing which restaurant to eat at this weekend. That was the moment. Something inside me cracked, but I didn't step out. I didn't confront them, not then. Not yet, because something told me this was just the beginning, a beginning of a truth I was never supposed to hear. I slowly stepped back, heart pounding in my ears, as their voices faded behind me. And in that moment, I understood something painful. It is terrifying to discover that the home you built with love might be the very place where you no longer belong. I went to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at my hands, the same hands that held them when they were small. And I whispered to myself, what did I do to deserve this? But little did I know, what I overheard that day wasn't the whole story, not even close, because the real secret, the real betrayal, was still waiting for me, hidden behind words I never intended to hear. And when the truth finally surfaced, it wouldn't just shock them. It would break the entire family apart. Before that evening, before the word nursing home sliced through the air like a knife, my life, at least on the surface, looked normal. Or maybe I should say, I wanted to believe it was normal. I'm a widow. My husband passed away 7 years ago on a rainy Tuesday I still can't fully talk about without my throat tightening. We had built this house together, brick by brick, argument by argument, laughter by laughter. Every corner still smells like him in some strange way. We had 2 children, my son Daniel, the eldest, the responsible one, as everyone always called him, and my daughter Lily, the sensitive one, the one who cried when a bird hit the window or when a stranger raised their voice at me in the market. Daniel got married first. His wife, Claire, came into our house like a gust of new wind, polished, organized, always with perfect hair and perfect lipstick. She worked in finance, knew about investments and taxes, and loved talking numbers at dinner. I didn't understand half of it, but I smiled. I always smiled. "Mom, Claire will help us manage things better," Daniel told me once, "especially now that Dad's gone. You don't have to worry about anything." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Because when you've spent your whole life worrying and someone finally tells you, "Rest, we'll take care of you now," you cling to those words like a warm blanket. Lily, on the other hand, was always a little messy. She tried different jobs, different passions, photography, yoga, baking, even opening a small online shop that sold handmade candles. Sometimes she'd fail. Sometimes she'd call me, crying, saying, "Mom, I don't know what I'm doing with my life." And I would answer, "You're living. That's enough for now." She lived farther away, in a small apartment across town. She came by less often than Daniel and Claire, but every time she did, she'd bring some small thing, flowers, a cake, a scarf she thought would make me look dramatic and artistic. We weren't a perfect family. We had arguments, cold dinners, eye rolls exchanged across the table. But in my heart, I thought, we're okay. We're still a family. After my husband died, life became quieter, heavier. The house felt bigger, the nights longer. I got used to eating alone, my fork scraping the plate in a kitchen that once echoed with laughter and clinking glasses. But Daniel and Claire moved in for a while after he died. Just until we figure things out, they said. They said they wanted to help me, help with the bills, help with the house, help with organizing the future. At first it felt comforting. Claire would take over the desk where my husband used to sit and pay the bills. She'd stack papers, sign things, make calls. I didn't interfere. They were young, capable. I was tired, grieving. "Mom, don't tire yourself. Just trust us," she'd say with that confident smile. "We'll handle all the paperwork, okay? You just focus on resting, enjoying your days." I remember one day she gave me a folder and said, "These are just standard documents, tax and property stuff, to make things easier in case something happens, you know?" She laughed nervously. "Don't worry. It's all in your favor." I didn't really read them. I trusted her. I trusted my son. I signed where they pointed. I signed with the same hand that once held Daniel when he took his first steps. Sometimes now, when I lie awake at night, I wonder if that was my first big mistake. Our daily routines fell into a rhythm. I'd wake up early, make coffee, sit at the small table by the kitchen window, and watch the neighborhood slowly come alive. Kids walking to school, dogs being walked, the mailman doing his rounds with the same tired posture. I planted flowers in the front yard, marigolds, roses, white lilies. I liked lilies because they reminded me of my daughter. And my husband used to say, even when they wilt, they still look dignified. Daniel would go to work, leaving early, rushing, checking his watch. Claire sometimes worked from home, laptop open, phone pressed to her ear, talking about contracts, deadlines, numbers, percentages. In the evenings, we'd often eat together. "Mom, you don't have to cook," she'd say, "but I wanted to cook. Cooking was how I loved. I knew their favorite dishes by heart. Daniel loved my chicken soup. Claire liked my baked fish with lemon, and sometimes when Lily was able to come over, I'd make her favorite eggplant dish. At the table, we looked like a normal family. We talked about weather, politics, the price of food. We joked. We complained. But looking back now, I realized something strange. Most of the time, when real topics came up, money, future, the house, the conversation would shift. They would say things like, "We'll talk about it later, Mom. It's complicated. Don't worry your head. We're sorting everything. It's better if you don't stress." I thought they were protecting me. It felt sweet at the time. I didn't know they were also protecting their own plans. You see, I grew up in a different generation. My idea of family was simple. Parents sacrifice, children remember, parents give, children one day stand beside them, not behind them, pushing them away. Naive, right? I didn't notice there were cracks, moments where Claire would sigh a little too loudly when I forgot something, moments where Daniel's eyes would cloud over when I asked him to repeat what he said, moments where they spoke just a little too slowly, like they were already placing me in the category of old problem. But I shrugged it off. I told myself, they're stressed. They work hard. I'm just being too sensitive, because that's what we, as mothers, often do, don't we? We always find a way to excuse the people we love. The neighbors continued to greet me. At church, people still smiled, asked how my children were. I'd answer proudly, "Good, they're good. They take care of me." I meant it. I believed it. I even defended them once. A friend of mine, Rosa, said, "You should keep your paperwork under your control, you know. Don't sign too much. Young people today." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. And I almost snapped at her. "My children are not like that," I said. "They're good. They love me." Even now, I can hear myself saying that. I can hear the certainty in my voice. A certainty that would soon be broken. From the outside, if you had looked at us, you wouldn't have seen a broken family. You would have seen a quiet house with trimmed flowers, a widow living with her son and daughter-in-law, sharing meals, sharing space. You wouldn't have noticed the documents quietly moving from one folder to another. You wouldn't have heard the whispers exchanged after I went to bed. You wouldn't have sensed the calculations already happening behind my back. And I didn't either. Not until that evening. Not until my own name floated down the hallway, wrapped around the words, "nursing home." And suddenly, the help, the "don't worry, Mom," the "just sign here," all started to feel like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't realized they were assembling. But before we go deeper into that night, before I tell you exactly what I heard and what I did after, I want you to understand one thing. I wasn't a perfect mother. I wasn't a saint. I yelled sometimes. I made mistakes. I chose wrong words, wrong moments, wrong silences, but I loved them. God knows I loved them, and that's what makes what happened next so hard to swallow. Because betrayal doesn't come from the places we expect. It comes from the kitchen where you've cooked for years, from the hallway that's seen your children learn to walk, from the living room where their voices, one day, start planning a future where you are no longer included. And that night, in that same living room, the story truly began. I wish I could tell you the night it all began was dramatic, that there was thunder, lightning, a sudden blackout, something that would warn me the world I knew was about to crack open. But no, it was an ordinary Tuesday, too ordinary actually, the kind of evening where nothing stands out, but something feels slightly off. The sun had just set, leaving a faint blue glow through the curtains. I remember the air feeling heavier than usual, like the entire house was holding its breath. Daniel and Claire had come home earlier than usual. I could hear their voices from downstairs, low, rushed, like they didn't want their words to spill out into the rest of the house. At the time, I didn't think too much of it. I was in my room, folding laundry, slowly, carefully. I always liked folding clothes in the evening. It kept my hands busy and my mind in a quiet place, the kind of routine that makes you feel safe, anchored. But that night, nothing felt anchored. There was a tension in the air I couldn't explain, a strange silence beneath the sound of their voices. After a few minutes, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, then stopping midway, whispers, fast, urgent. Then Daniel's voice, hushed, not here, she might hear. I froze. My first instinct was to step into the hallway and let them know I wasn't asleep. But something deep in my gut told me to stay still. A mother knows when a tone isn't just a tone, when a sentence hides another sentence underneath. I don't know what pushed me to do it, but I put the folded shirt down, quietly walked to my door, and opened it just 2 inches, just enough to let the voices slip through like thin smoke. Claire spoke next, her voice low, firm, the kind of voice she uses when she believes she's being rational. We can't wait anymore, Daniel. The longer we delay, the harder it will be to convince her. Convince me. Of what? He sighed, and for the first time, I heard exhaustion in his voice. Not the work exhaustion, but the kind that happens when someone's making a decision they already feel guilty about. I know, Claire, I know. Let's talk downstairs. Downstairs. I don't know why that word made my heart stop. Maybe because it sounded like they were going to talk about something big, something that needed space, privacy, something they didn't want me involved in. With quiet steps, I followed. Not too closely, just enough to catch the trail of their words. I moved like a ghost, my feet barely touching the floor. When I reached the hallway at the bottom of the stairs, I pressed myself gently against the wall. The living room door was slightly open, a thin slice of light spilling into the dark corridor. And that was when I heard it. Claire's voice, clinical, almost cold, slicing through the air. The nursing home called back. They have a room ready. If we take it this month, they'll give us a discount. A discount, a discount. As if I were a piece of furniture they wanted to store somewhere else. My hand flew to my mouth. I couldn't breathe. Daniel didn't respond at first. I could hear him pacing, his footsteps soft but restless. Then he said, very quietly, "Do you think Mom will agree?" Agree? Agree to be sent away like luggage? Claire clicked her tongue. She doesn't have a choice, Daniel. She won't manage on her own for long. And you know we can't keep living here like this. It's affecting our life, our plans, our life, our plans. As if I was a burden interfering with their future. My vision blurred. Not from tears, not yet. It was shock, pure, raw shock. Then Claire continued, her voice rising just a little. And honestly, I've checked the finances. The sooner she moves, the better, for all of us. Finances. Another knife. I gripped the edge of the wall so tightly my nails dug into the paint. My mind was racing. What finances? What was she talking about? What had I signed? What had I trusted them with? Before I could even process those thoughts, Lily's voice cut through the room. She must have arrived quietly. I hadn't heard her come in. What are you two talking about? Her voice was sharp, almost panicked. Daniel sighed again. Lil, it's about Mom. There was a silence so heavy I thought the walls might collapse. Then Lily whispered, "What about Mom?" Claire answered, "We're arranging for her to move to a nursing home next month." I could imagine Lily's face, her eyes widening, her breath catching. She always reacted with her whole heart. What? Without talking to her? Without asking? She's not some obligation. Daniel snapped, "What are we supposed to do, Lily? She's getting older. She forgets things. She's slowing down. We can't take care of her forever." Slowing down, aging, needing care. Those words felt like slaps. Lily's voice trembled. She's our mother. Claire cut in again. And we're being responsible. That house is too big for her alone. She could fall, hurt herself, lose track of something important. We're doing what's best for everyone. Everyone. Everyone except me. I felt something hot behind my eyes, not tears, something more bitter. I stepped back, afraid the sound of my heartbeat might give me away. Things didn't feel real anymore. The walls felt farther. The air felt thinner. Then Lily said something that made my chest tighten even more. Are you doing this for her or for yourselves? There it was, the question I didn't have the courage to ask. Silence again, a dangerous silence. And then, Claire's voice, colder than ice. Look, if we don't do this now, we'll lose the property tax exemption, and the transfer will get complicated. We already moved the titles. We need things to stay clean. Transfer, titles, clean. My heart stopped. I wasn't breathing. I couldn't breathe. What transfer? What titles? Everything felt like a nightmare I wasn't supposed to witness. And then, the sentence that broke me. Daniel whispered, "She won't fight it, Claire. She trusts us." I felt my knees weaken. I trusted them. God, I trusted them. I stood there in the shadows, listening to the people I raised, the people I sacrificed my life for, making plans for a future where I wasn't part of the picture. And in that moment, in that suffocating, heartbreaking moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. This was a plan, a long, calculated plan. And I had no idea how far it had already gone. I didn't make a sound. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Because something inside me whispered, there's more. There's something you still don't know. Keep listening. And so I did, quietly, hidden. Heartbreaking piece by heartbreaking piece, the truth began to surface. After that night, I wish I could tell you I confronted them immediately, that I stormed into the living room, slammed my hand on the table, and demanded answers. But I didn't. I couldn't, because something inside me, instinct, fear, maybe both, told me, don't move, don't reveal you know, not yet. And so, instead of reacting, I watched, I listened, I paid attention to every little thing I had ignored before. And that's when everything started to look different. It began the next morning. I woke up early, as always, before anyone else. I made my coffee, walked to the kitchen window, and tried to breathe normally. But the sunlight felt too bright. The air felt too thin. The chair felt too hard. Nothing was the same, even though everything looked the same. I sat there quietly when I heard footsteps coming down. Claire first, then Daniel. They looked normal, too normal. She smiled at me over the counter. "Morning, Mom. Sleep okay?" I almost laughed. Sleep okay? After hearing them plan my exile? But I forced a nod. I slept fine. I lied, even though I had barely closed my eyes. Daniel looked at me a little too long, studying me, testing if I had heard anything last night. I kept my hands steady, my face calm. I had to, for now. But that was when the first sign appeared. Claire opened the cabinet where I kept my medicine, small pills for blood pressure, a few vitamins, nothing serious, and she frowned. "Mom, you took 2 yesterday, didn't you?" I looked up, surprised. "No, I took one, like always." She nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing with an expression I couldn't fully read. Maybe you forgot." Forgot. It hit me like a slap, that subtle tone, the tone people use when they want others to believe you're losing your mind. I didn't respond. I just watched her close the cabinet, her face calm, but her eyes busy calculating something behind them. That was the first sign. The second came later that afternoon. I decided to take a walk to the garden. Fresh air usually clears my mind, but when I tried to open the back door, the lock jammed. Or at least, I thought it jammed. I pulled harder, confused. The lock had never stuck before. Then Claire appeared behind me, almost too quickly. "Oh, I forgot to tell you. We changed the lock yesterday. Safety measures. You know, in case you wander out while we're not home." Wander out? I froze. "I don't wander," I said quietly. She smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Of course, but you know, just in case. Better safe than sorry, right?" Better safe than sorry. Another excuse. Another small stone added to a mountain I didn't yet understand. The third sign came in the form of papers, a stack of envelopes, bills, insurance letters, property notices that usually sat neatly on the desk, but that day, they were gone. When I asked Daniel about them, he didn't even look up from his phone. "Oh, Claire filed everything already. We don't want you stressing over paperwork." File everything, or hide everything. I felt something tightening in my chest, something telling me these weren't coincidences. They were steps towards something I still didn't fully see. Then came the fourth sign. It was evening, almost dinner time. I walked into the living room, looking for the remote. The TV stand drawer was half open, and inside, I saw a folder, a thick folder, the kind Claire usually handled. My name was written on the tab, just my name. I reached for it without thinking, instinctively, like my hand moved before my mind did. But before my fingers touched the folder, a voice cut through the room. "Mom?" Claire, standing behind me, her eyes sharp, her smile thinner than usual. "What are you looking for?" she asked. I pulled my hand back slowly. "The remote," I answered, my voice steadier than I felt. She stepped forward, closed the drawer with her foot, almost too quickly. "Oh, I reorganized the living room. I'll get it for you." And she left the room, returning with the remote and a forced laugh. "See? You always misplace things. Forget, wander." They were building a narrative, piece by piece, word by word, about who I was, or rather, who they wanted me to be. A fragile old woman, confused, forgetful, needing help, easily manipulated. That night I couldn't eat. My spoon clicked against the bowl loudly. My hand trembled the whole time, not from age, but from fear. Daniel noticed. "Mom, you okay? You look tired." I looked at him, really looked at him, and wondered how long he had seen me, not as his mother, but as a responsibility to manage. "I'm fine," I whispered. But inside, I felt anything but fine. The fifth sign came when I wasn't prepared for it. I was in the hallway, dusting the pictures on the wall, old photos, memories frozen in time, faces smiling from better days. One frame slipped from my hand, not enough to fall, just enough to tilt, and behind it, I saw something, a key, a small silver key taped to the wall, my key. I recognized it instantly. It was the spare key to my husband's old lockbox, the lockbox where he kept important documents, and where I kept everything after he died. I hadn't seen that key in months. I had searched for it once, thinking I had misplaced it. But there it was, hidden, taped behind a photo. With shaking fingers, I peeled it off the wall. Why would someone hide my key? Who and why there? As I held the key in my palm, a memory flashed, a vague one, blurry, but now suspicious. Months ago, Claire had said she needed to reorganize the storage cabinet. She had spent hours moving things, cleaning, making stacks. I hadn't questioned it. But now everything pointed in a direction I didn't want to look. I went to my room, closed the door quietly, and sat down. For the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own home, a home full of signs. Signs I had been too trusting, too naive to see earlier. Signs that whispered, they've been preparing this for a long time, longer than you think. My hands trembled as I held the key tightly, pressing the metal into my skin until it hurt, because the truth, the real truth, was starting to form, and it terrified me. Something was happening behind my back, something big, something planned, something they never wanted me to find out. But now, I had a key, and a reason to use it. I held that small silver key in my palm for a long time, long enough for its cold metal to warm against my skin, long enough for my heartbeat to settle into a dull, painful rhythm, long enough for one terrifying realization to crawl into my mind. They hid this key from me because they didn't want me opening something important, something meant for me, something they feared I would discover. But what? As night fell, the house grew quiet, too quiet, and I sat alone in my room, staring at that key like it was some forbidden object holding secrets I wasn't ready to face. I waited until the clock struck midnight. Daniel and Claire always slept heavily, the kind of deep sleep that comes after long days and heavy consciences, perhaps. I slipped out of my room, bare feet, slow breaths. Every creak of the old wooden floor felt like thunder in my ears. The storage closet where the lockbox was kept sat at the very end of the hallway, a place I rarely touched anymore, a place my husband used to call the memory corner. I opened the door, and the familiar scent hit me. Old books, dust, a hint of cedar from my husband's wooden shelves, a scent that always felt comforting, but tonight it felt like a warning. I knelt down and pulled the lockbox out from beneath a stack of old blankets. It was heavier than I remembered, or maybe my hands were just shaking too much. I inserted the key. It slid in easily, too easily. It fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. When the lock clicked open, something in my chest clicked with it, a break, a shift, a painful awakening. Inside, everything looked normal at first. My husband's old pocket watch, our marriage certificate, a yellowed family photo, a bundle of letters tied with a fading blue ribbon. But beneath those things, beneath those memories, something else was hidden, a thick stack of documents, neat, intentional, too organized. I picked them up. The first page made my hands go numb. Property transfer agreement. My name, Daniel's name, Claire's name, dated months ago. My signature was on it, but I had never seen this document before. My breath stopped. The second page, amendment to living trust, beneficiary changes, my signature, again. But I didn't remember signing this either. The third page hit me like a fist, durable power of attorney, granting Daniel full control over my finances, properties, decisions, full control over everything. Signed by me, but not me, not truly. My vision blurred, my fingers trembled uncontrollably, my stomach twisted, cold, hollow, sick. I whispered into the dark, no, 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 no. I didn't sign this. I didn't. But the signatures were there, perfect, clean, too clean. My mind raced back. All those times Claire came to me with papers saying, just tax forms, just insurance documents, just routine signatures. I had trusted her, trusted my own son, God. I had given them the pen with my own hands. Then another document slipped out of the stack. Nursing home intake application completed, approved, paid deposit, $2,000, paid by Daniel, contact person, Claire, move-in date, next month. My throat closed. I felt my knees weaken until I had to sit down on the cold floor. This wasn't a sudden decision. This wasn't stress or miscommunication. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was planned, calculated, prepared, executed behind my back while I cooked for them, cleaned for them, loved them. I kept flipping through the documents like a woman possessed. Bank statements, account closures, insurance beneficiaries changed, tax exemptions, property reassessments, all tied to my name, all bearing my signature, all orchestrated to make everything look clean, just like Claire had said. I felt like I couldn't breathe, a pressure built inside my chest so tight I thought I might pass out. Then, a small brown envelope slipped out from the bottom of the stack. It was old, my husband's handwriting. My heart stopped. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a letter from him, written years before he died. My love, if you are reading this, something in life has changed. I want you to know that everything I have, everything I worked for, everything I leave behind belongs to you, only you. My eyes flooded, not with sadness, not with longing, with devastation. He continued, do not let anyone pressure you into signing documents you do not understand. Our children are good, but life can tempt people in ways we cannot predict. Keep the lockbox key safe. Do not let it out of your sight. I choked, physically choked, when I read the last line. If anything ever feels wrong, trust your instincts. Protect yourself. Do not be afraid to fight. Tears flooded my face, dripping onto the letter. I clutched it to my chest like it was the last piece of him I had left, because it was. I stayed on that floor for a long time, crying without sound, breathing in short, broken gasps, my entire body shaking with betrayal. I felt sick. I felt old. I felt foolish. I felt used. Every flash of memory suddenly took new meaning. Claire's helpful organizing, Daniel's insistence that I didn't need to stress, the missing papers, the hidden key, the whispering, the planning. It wasn't about caring for me. It wasn't about safety. It wasn't about convenience. It was about the house, the assets, the money, and I, their mother, was the last obstacle. I pressed my hands to my face. Somewhere deep inside me, a voice cracked open. They were never planning to care for you. They were planning to get rid of you, legally. I don't know how long I stayed there, 10 minutes, an hour, a lifetime, but eventually, the numbness turned into something else, a heat, quiet but burning. A slow rising fire inside my chest, not anger, not yet, resolve, strength, a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wiped my tears. I stood up, and I put every document back into the lockbox, except my husband's letter. That I kept. I locked everything, hid the key, and went back to my room. But I didn't sleep. I sat in the darkness, holding my husband's words pressed against my heart, and I whispered to myself, they think I am weak. They think I am blind. They think I will go quietly. Then I looked toward the hallway, where their room was, and said under my breath, they have no idea what I'm about to do. That night, I didn't sleep, not even for a second. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the darkness in front of me, as if the shadows could somehow explain what had happened. My hands were cold. My heart felt numb. My chest rose and fell too quickly, like I was trying to convince my body to stay alive when my spirit had already collapsed. I replayed every moment in my head, every smile Claire gave me, every reassuring touch Daniel offered, every time they said, don't worry, Mom, we'll take care of everything. And suddenly, all those moments began to feel like scenes in a movie where I was the only one who didn't know the ending. I felt betrayed. I felt humiliated. I felt stupid. God, I felt so stupid. How long had this been happening? How long had they used my trust as a tool, as a weapon? How long had I lived under the same roof with people who were slowly, quietly erasing me? I pressed my palms into my eyes until I saw stars. Then I whispered the question every mother fears. Where did I go wrong? Where? Where in the years of sacrificing, loving, forgiving, cooking, praying, hoping? Did everything twist into this? I bit my lip to stop myself from sobbing too loudly, because crying felt useless, pointless, like pouring water on a burning house that had already turned to ashes. When the dawn finally came, pale and quiet, I felt like a different person, older, colder, but somehow clearer. I went to the mirror. My eyes were swollen, my hair a mess. I looked like a ghost of the woman I used to be. I whispered to my reflection, "You can't let them do this." And in my chest, something clicked, the smallest spark of strength. But strength doesn't erase pain. It sits next to it. And the pain was unbearable. I walked downstairs like a stranger in my own home. The sound of my feet on the steps felt unfamiliar, like the house was rejecting me, like my own walls knew I didn't belong anymore. Claire was in the kitchen drinking her morning smoothie, the same green smoothie she bragged about being perfect for mental clarity. I wondered if it helped her stay calm while plotting my removal. She looked up. "Morning, Mom," she said cheerfully. Her voice cut into me like broken glass. I forced a small smile. "Morning." Daniel came next. Tired eyes, messy hair, the look of someone who had slept peacefully while my soul was shattering upstairs. He kissed my cheek. "Hey, Mom, we were thinking of taking you out this weekend. A little break. A little break. A little break before they sent me away." I felt the tears rise, sharp, sudden, and I turned away, pretending to check the kettle. "I'll think about it," I whispered. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded hollow, strained. That was the moment Daniel looked at me. Really looked. "Mom, are you okay? You look pale." I swallowed hard. "I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. I was breaking. After breakfast, I excused myself and went to my room. But halfway up the stairs, I heard something. Lily. She had arrived early, too early. Her voice floated from the living room, broken, strangled, desperate. How could you do this to her? My heart pounded. Daniel responded sharply, "Lil, keep your voice down." "No," she cried. "She's our mother. How dare you make decisions about her life without her, without even asking her?" A chair scraped the floor. Assigned someone stood abruptly. Then Claire's voice, annoyed. "We're doing what's practical. Stop being dramatic." Dramatic. That word hit me hard. Lily almost screamed, "Practical? Practical? You forged her signatures. You changed her trust. You hid the key. How is that practical?" My breath stopped. She knew. She knew everything. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to stay still. Daniel snapped, "Keep your voice down. If she hears what?" Lily shot back. "That you're sending her away to dump her somewhere so you can keep the house, so you and your wife can live your best life with her money?" Silence. A violent silence. Then Daniel said the sentence that shattered what little was left in me. "She's old, Lily. She's not the same anymore. She won't last long on her own. This is for the best." My hand flew to my mouth. For the best. Destroying my autonomy, stealing my property, erasing my future. For the best. Tears spilled uncontrollably. But Lily wasn't done. "You told me you loved her. You told me you'd protect her. You told me you'd never abandon her." Daniel snapped back. "I'm not abandoning her. I'm protecting our life, my life, Claire's life." There it was, the truth laid bare without even trying to hide. Not my life, not our life, his life. Claire added coldly, "She should be grateful we're even handling this. Most parents go to nursing homes eventually. It's normal. Normal. As if betrayal had become a routine obligation." Lily's voice cracked, not from anger this time, but from a pain only a daughter could feel on behalf of her mother. "I can't believe I'm related to you." Something slammed, maybe a mug, maybe a chair, and I heard footsteps storm toward the front door. I thought Lily had left, but instead the footsteps came up the stairs. And in the next second, she opened my door. The moment her eyes met mine, she froze, her face twisted, not with anger anymore, but with guilt, fear, shame. And then, without a word, she rushed toward me, fell to her knees, wrapped her arms around me, and sobbed, "Mom, you heard, didn't you?" I didn't say anything. I just placed my trembling hand on her back, because there are moments in life when words are too small for what's happening. She cried harder. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have checked the papers. I should have noticed something was wrong." I gently lifted her chin so she'd look at me. "Lily, I need to know." My voice cracked. "How long has this been happening?" Her face went pale. She bit her lip. She hesitated. And then she whispered the truth that made my entire body go cold. "Mom, they've been planning this since Dad died." The world tilted sideways. I clutched the bed frame to keep myself from collapsing. Since he died, since the moment I lost my husband, I had started losing everything else without even realizing it. Lily held my hands tightly. Her eyes burned. "You're not going anywhere, Mom." Her voice was steady, strong, unshakable. "I won't let them take anything from you. Not your home, not your freedom, not your life." But even as she said those words, I knew this wasn't over. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning of the fight. Lily's words didn't just hurt me. They hollowed me out. "Mom, they've been planning this since Dad died." That sentence echoed in my chest like an earthquake that wouldn't settle. Every breath I took after that felt sharp, heavy, like my lungs were learning how to expand again after being crushed for years. I sat on the bed, stunned, trying to understand how grief had blinded me so completely. How in the silence of mourning, another kind of silence had grown, the silence of betrayal. Lily held my hand tightly. "Mom, look at me," she whispered. I lifted my eyes to hers. "You are not weak, you are not alone, and you are not going anywhere unless you choose to." Something in me cracked, a soundless break, deep and quiet, and then something else flowed into that empty space. A strength I didn't know I still had, but strength doesn't erase heartbreak. It just gives it form. I took a long, shaky breath. "Lily, I need to see everything." She nodded. She didn't ask questions. She didn't hesitate. She simply said, "Then let's go." We walked downstairs together. My steps felt heavier with each stair, but there was a strange power behind them, the power of someone who finally sees the truth clearly, painfully, completely. Lily entered the living room first. Daniel and Claire looked up. Their faces changed instantly, from annoyance to surprise to panic. Claire was the first to speak. "Oh, Lily, we weren't done talking." Lily cut her off sharply. "You're done now." Her voice wasn't shaking like earlier. Now it was cold, steady, lethal. Daniel frowned. "Lil, don't make a scene." "Why?" she snapped. "Because scenes make you uncomfortable? Because truth makes you uncomfortable?" He stood up, raising his hands as if calming a child. "I'm trying to protect Mom." "Don't you dare say that," Lily choked. Her voice cracked like ice under a boot. Then Daniel looked behind her and saw me, and his entire face drained of color. "Mom, you're awake early," he said weakly. He knew I heard something. He just didn't know how much. I stepped forward, slowly, quietly, like a shadow finally stepping into the light. I looked at my son, the boy whose first steps I had clapped for, whose fevers I had stayed awake through, whose disappointments I had held close. He looked away. Guilt is a loud thing, even in silence. I spoke softly. "Daniel, why?" He froze. Claire jumped in before he could answer. "Your mother is misunderstanding the situation." Lily spun toward her. "No, she finally understands the situation." Daniel rubbed his face, pacing. "Mom, look, we didn't want to upset you. We were trying to make things easier. For you?" I asked. He stopped walking. My voice was calm, too calm. "Daniel, did you forge my signature?" He swallowed hard. No, of course not. I cut him off. "Did I sign papers I didn't understand? Yes or no?" He hesitated, and that hesitation was my answer. Lily stepped closer to him. "Tell her the truth." Daniel's shoulders slumped. His voice cracked. "You trusted us. We thought we were doing what made sense, Mom. What was practical." Practical, that word again. I closed my eyes, inhaled slowly, and whispered, "You plan to send me away." He didn't deny it. Claire's arms crossed. "Your mother can't live alone. It's irresponsible to pretend she can. Look at the size of this house." Lily snapped. "This is her house." Claire's voice sharpened. "And we live here too. We have a life to build, a future. We can't put everything on hold because she's—" I looked at her, directly, firmly. "Because I'm what, Claire?" She hesitated, and for the first time, I saw the truth in her eyes. I wasn't a person to her anymore. I was an obstacle. Daniel stepped between us. "Mom, please, let's talk calmly, calmly." I had been calm for months, for years, for too long. Now I felt the truth rising inside me like a wave. "Daniel," I whispered, "when your father died, I lost half my heart. But losing your trust, losing your loyalty, losing your love, that feels like losing the rest." His eyes glistened. "Mom, I didn't mean to hurt you." I nodded gently. "I know you didn't mean to, but you did." Silence, heavy, stifling, final. Daniel's voice lowered. "What do you want to do?" "Mom?" This was it, the moment, the decision that would change everything. Do I fight? Do I forgive? Do I leave? Do I confront legally? Do I pretend I don't know? But no pretending anymore. I straightened my back, slowly, painfully, but with purpose. "I'm leaving," I said. Daniel's face fell. Claire blinked in shock. Even Lily gasped softly. But I continued. "Not to a nursing home, not to anywhere you choose. I am leaving this house, on my terms, with my dignity." Daniel's voice cracked. "Mom, wait." I raised my hand. "And before I go, I want every document you had me sign, every paper, every form, every transfer." Claire stepped forward, alarmed. "We can't just—" "You can," I interrupted. "And you will." Daniel looked torn. "Mom, if you leave, you will lose nothing," I said. "I will simply take back what is mine." Another silence, a shift in the air. Then Lily stepped beside me, holding my arm with a fierce, protective grip. "She's not alone in this," she said. "Not anymore." Daniel looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I saw the little boy he used to be flicker behind his stressed, exhausted adult eyes. "Mom, please don't hate me," he whispered. My heart tightened. I shook my head slowly. "I don't hate you, but I won't let you decide my ending." Claire tried again. You're being emotional, not rational. I stared straight into her eyes. No, for the first time in a long time, I am finally rational. And with that, I walked out of the living room, not fast, not dramatic, just steady, with Lily following behind me and Daniel standing frozen. Caught between guilt and fear, between love and greed, between past and future. That was the moment everything shifted, the moment I chose myself, the moment they realized the woman they thought was weak was strong enough to rewrite her fate. Choosing to leave sounds simple when you say it out loud, but walking away from the home where you raised your children, where you loved a man for decades, where you cried, prayed, celebrated, and survived, isn't something the heart does easily. Even as Lily helped me pack a small suitcase, my fingers trembled every time I touched something familiar. My husband's sweater, the mug with a tiny crack he refused to throw away. The framed photo of our wedding day, his eyes smiling the same way he smiled when he told me, "I'll take care of you for the rest of my life." I held that photo until my hands stopped shaking. Lily placed a gentle hand on my back. "Mom, you don't have to take everything, just what you need for now." I nodded, but something inside me whispered, all I ever needed was the love I thought I still had. When we walked downstairs, the air felt heavy, like the house itself knew something final was happening. Daniel sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, head buried in his hands. He looked smaller somehow, deflated. Claire stood near the dining table, arms crossed, eyes restless, calculating, defensive, uneasy. When they saw the suitcase, the room froze. Daniel stood up instantly. "Mom, no, please, don't do this." I held the handle of the suitcase tighter than I meant to. "Daniel," I said softly, "you already did this. I'm just finishing what you started." He winced. His mouth opened, but Lily stepped between us. "Don't pressure her," she said firmly. "You pressured her long enough." Claire scoffed. "This is ridiculous. She can't just walk out like this." I turned to Claire, the woman I had welcomed into my home, trusted with my papers, trusted with my son. My voice was steady. "I can walk out of any place where I am no longer respected." Claire rolled her eyes. "Respect goes both ways, you know." Something cold passed through my chest. "No," I whispered. "Manipulation doesn't." She went silent. For the first time, she had no comeback. Daniel reached for me again. "Mom, I swear, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I was doing what was practical. You always told me to be responsible." I felt a tear slide down my cheek. "Yes, Daniel, responsible, not ruthless." His voice cracked. "I never wanted to hurt you, never." I looked at him for a long time, a mother's gaze, full of history, memory, love, and disappointment. "I know you loved me in your own way," I said gently, "but love without respect is not love at all." He sank onto the couch, head down, broken by his own choices. Claire whispered sharply to him, "Are you seriously letting her go? What about the house? What about—" "Enough," Daniel said quietly. His voice was tired of pretending, tired of choosing between his wife and his conscience. "I need a moment," he murmured. I turned toward the door, and with each step, my heart felt heavier, but my spine felt straighter. Every mother reaches a moment in life when she must choose between staying quiet for her children and standing tall for herself. I reached mine. Outside, the air was cool, the sky soft, the world strangely peaceful. Lily hugged me. "Mom, you're safe now. We'll fix this, I promise." But I shook my head gently. "This isn't about fixing, Lily. It's about understanding." She frowned. "Understanding what?" I looked toward the house that held my whole life. and yet, in the end, had nearly swallowed me. That love is not immunity, I whispered. Being a mother doesn't protect you from your children's mistakes. We got into her car. As we drove away, I watched the house shrink in the rearview mirror. It didn't feel like I was leaving home. It felt like I was leaving a version of myself, one who stayed quiet, one who trusted blindly, one who never imagined she would need to protect herself from her own family. When we reached Lily's apartment, she insisted I take her bed. "Mom, please, you need rest." But I shook my head. "I need clarity," I replied. I sat by her small window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. For the first time in years, I breathed without fear. Over the next days, Lily and I reviewed every document, every signature, every legal detail. She helped me call a lawyer, a kind man with silver glasses who listened patiently as I recounted everything. When I handed him my husband's letter, his eyes softened. "This," he said gently, "is your shield." And slowly, painfully, things began to unfold. Some documents were invalid. Some signatures were coerced. Some transfers were reversible. I hadn't lost everything, not yet, but this story isn't about legal battles. It's about something deeper, because paperwork can be undone, plans can unravel, properties can be reclaimed. But trust is a different kind of currency, one that, once broken, can never be restored to its original value. One evening, sitting on Lily's sofa, wrapped in a warm blanket, I realized something. I wasn't running away. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't weak. I was choosing myself. For the first time in decades, I was choosing myself. I closed my eyes and whispered, "If he were here, my husband would want me to stand tall." And in my heart, I felt him, not as a memory, but as strength, as the quiet courage I had forgotten I owned. Life doesn't always fall apart loudly. Sometimes it breaks in whispers, in signatures, in small dismissive comments, in decisions made behind closed doors. But healing, too, begins quietly, in a single step out the door, in a suitcase packed with trembling hands, in a voice that finally says, "Enough." And if you've made it to this point in my story, I want you to take something from me. Don't wait until betrayal is undeniable. Don't wait until your world collapses. Don't wait until the people you love decide who you are for you. Listen to your instincts, read the signs, protect yourself, even from the people you love, especially from the people you love. Because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is save themselves when nobody else will. Thank you for sitting through my story until the very end. If you have ever experienced anything similar, please remember, you are not alone.